Happy Friday. I hope you're excited to join my Q&A. I'm just going to invite Marco and let's see. We hope this works. Let's see. Oh my gosh, it's
Hi,
Fran.
hello.
Hi. Hello. Happy Friday. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Happy Friday. How's it going?
Very excited. Okay, so I don't know who's going to tune in, but if not, then we're going to replay on my Substack. So, hello, I'm Fran Ayala, aka Fran Brands on Substack, and I am very excited today to be speaking with Marco Del Valle, who is also, like me, a strategist, strategy director, also a stand up comedian, also Filipino, also fabulous, but way better at karaoke.
We're like
Um,
the same person.
Oh my God, is this our lives? Are we like in each other's heads? Anyway, so what I was going to say just to preface is that like I think one of my most favorite things about our new but deep friendship is that I met you on LinkedIn. I
Yeah,
have never met another comedian that I ended up hanging out with for real on LinkedIn, which I think
that's
is brilliant.
crazy. The
So
one good thing out of that hellscape.
I know, but it's getting like weird. Like weird
Oh,
LinkedIn is a whole thing. But before we segue, I would like to talk about you for a minute. For people who are just meeting you for the first time, how would you describe what you do? Also to the uninitiated in the strategy world.
yes. So I am a strategy director from Uncommon Creative Studio. What that means is I work with brands like The Ordinary and British Airways. Essentially help brands find what makes them interesting and what makes people care about them. And then I work with creatives to turn that into interesting, creative ideas that people in the real world want to see.
And honestly, I love asking this to anyone who works in strat. Is this where you saw your career going? Um,
No, no. So my career has gone from like super business to super creative. I started out in uni in accounting, moved to
hmm.
business, did lots of like marketing competitions. My first job was marketing client side. And I remember being told by my first ever boss that I should go into advertising as a strategist because I was essentially they were saying you would be great as a strategist because you are terrible at being a client. So you're fired, but here's a potential career path. So I said, you know what, I am gonna take that and run with it. And this was back in the Philippines, so I was like, new career, new industry, new life, new everything.
Oh my God, amazing. And what is it, I guess, that you find the most fulfilling about working in strategy?
I think it's the ability to just have a job that bridges the worlds of creativity and brands. And like, it's just being able to go into different parts of culture. And one day I'll be working on stuff that's related to K-pop. One day I'll be working on stuff that's related to the beauty industry. Sometimes I'll be talking about people who are traveling a lot and taking all those different parts of culture, all of those different things, and finding ways to make them fun and interesting and creative. And weirdly, sometimes like the more quote unquote boring category is or more boring a product is, like that's when it's the biggest challenge to be like, how do we make this fun and interesting and exciting and famous?
It's very I guess I would say like it's very much an underdog of the marketing and advertising industry because I don't think with strategy like you can come and say, "Oh, there's a KPI." Right? Like the KPI is
Mhm.
like not how much money you make. It's just that like you know the direction in which you're going to take the campaign. Um but I don't know, like if I had to ask you like if a client came to you and said, "Okay, like so if I'm going to pay for a strategy session, what do I get out of it? What's the ROI?" What would you say?
Yeah. And it really depends on the way strategy works, like whether it's freelance or within an agency. The work that a strategy director does with an entire brand, so it's not just with a single campaign. We do a lot of work on effectiveness and being able to track whether the campaigns have worked, whether they've gone famous, whether it's increased like awareness and the visibility and purchase intent of a brand, and ultimately like, is it helping the brand achieve its goals? So we always keep like the effectiveness of any campaign in mind, But at the same time, I think the biggest thing strategy adds to any client of any size is clarity. You know, there are a
Mhm.
million things your brand can be saying at any given moment in time, but what's the one thing that's going to cut through? Like, it's just making it simple for people. Our lives are complicated enough as it is. So much of my job is just dialing things down and making it simple.
That's true. And I mean, there is a lot of data. Love Marco, huge fan. Yes,
Oh my
yes.
God, no, stop.
But yeah, there's a lot of research, there's a lot of data that's involved in the job, but I guess that the core of it, you have to make it make sense, right? Because I mean, information is one thing. I think you can tell a story with information, but you can't make people buy, you can't make people feel, I think you can't make them believe or act without finding that emotional connection that makes it simple, that makes it fun, or like makes somebody go, aha, which interestingly enough, I think is the same with comedy. I don't
Mm.
know. What would you say is like the part of your strategy brain that intersects with your comedy brain?
Oh, it's a huge like there. It's a circle. Like the Venn diagram is a circle. So much of like the more I started going into comedy, the more I realized how much of the skills I'd learned in strategy were transferable, but also how much comedy was forcing me to sharpen strategy. Like there are a couple of things that they have in common. I mean, first of all, the ability to take any subject and find what's interesting in it, find what's exciting about it. So much of comedy is about subverting expectations, surprising people, whereas so much of advertising is about doing the same thing again and again, and so much of advertising is the same old stuff. So being able to force yourself to think in new and different ways and be like, what is the expectation that people have from this brand, from this category, and how do we subvert it but still make it make sense? And on the flip side, I think what strategy lends to comedy is an ability to just keep things clear in how you communicate things. I
Hmm.
think the struggle for like anyone writing jokes or writing routines or bits is you've got a really great idea in your head that you know is funny, but can you articulate it in the simplest, easiest, most
Hmm.
concise way that people can understand and get it? Because people won't laugh at something if they don't understand it. And the same is true. Like a brand can't enact a strategy if they don't get it. People won't buy your product if they don't understand what's going on in the advertising. So much of it is just being able to think in a way that's different, but also
Hmm.
think in a way that's clear.
That's true. I think like there, it requires you to understand tension. It requires you to kind of understand sort of patterns, timing,
Mhm.
but also to roll with it. I guess
Mm.
like just depending on like what your audience how they respond. um how did you didn't start out in stand up in your comedic career, is that correct? You started out in improv.
Yeah, so I started out in improv. That was, I'd say, I'm around. Yeah, I started out in improv, and the reason I did it was I actually started improv and stand up to get better at strategy.
Aha.
There's a huge number of strategists that I've worked with or that I've seen who have recommended improv and stand up for the same reasons that I mentioned. But I also just wanted to do something that let me have fun
Hmm.
and just let me be silly. I think, especially in the industry, it's so easy to be caught up in the world of advertising and it feels like a bubble. And you're only talking about advertising to advertisers. You need to live a real life in the real world, and that's true both as a comedian and a strategist. You need to live a real life in the real world. And being improv, I think, allowed me to loosen up and just roll with the punches. I don't think I would have ever taken stand up or persisted in stand up. I'm still fairly new in stand up, but I don't think I would have persisted if I hadn't done improv first. Because I think what improv allows you to do is just let loose of the fear and the doubt and just roll with the punches, if you've just mentioned.
Yes, and no, so what do you remember what your first, I guess, like session was when you did your like first improv workshop or class? What was going through your mind, and was it immediately something that felt comfortable, or was it not?
You know what? I remember the first session I ever did an improv, and I just remember for the first time being able to drop my shoulders because like so much of it was this is play, this is silly. There are no stakes to this, And I just remember doing that and for the first time feeling like a kid again and just feeling playful and fun and so much about creativity, so much about strategies, being playful and finding new interesting ways to look at things. And if you are so dead serious in everything you do, which I have for years, that's what I was like, then you close yourself off from just being able to find the fun and find the interesting in things. And I remember the first time I properly got on stage as well, like the first showcase I did, the feeling of laughter that you get, like the first big wave of laughs you ever get. There is nothing like it. It's like a drug. And the thing with advertising is there's such a big gap between what you do, what you put out into the world, and how it's received. Like
Mm.
the feedback you get is, it comes in the form of data, whether people did purchase a product. Luckily, the work that we do, we want it to get famous and talked about on social media. So you do get people doing that. But there's nothing like the immediate instant feedback you get from an audience and knowing how to adapt and roll with it in real time. It's just really incredible.
Honestly, if I could snort a room full of laughter, I
Oh,
probably would, because there's honestly nothing like it. And I've done, a few things like that in my life. But do you remember the very first time you had that kind of show in stand up, like where you went up on stage and you told a joke and just like what I guess what was the event, what was the gig, was it a mic, um and like how did you feel after, how did you feel going in and after?
yeah, I so my first stand up. So I did stand up. I think a year after did improv. So
Hmm.
had a bit of a head start. I took a course at the Bill Murray, and that was really great. It was a showcase. I would not have done stand up if my two improv teammates hadn't done it first, and
Uh-huh.
asked me to join the class with them. And it turns out that I ended up absolutely loving it. I did stand up because I wanted to challenge myself to do something that was really scary. And I find stand up so much scarier than improv, because you're sitting down writing something. There's no like grace period of, hey, I'm just making this up. No, it's like I sat down, I wrote this. and,
Mm.
and I can't, there's a limit to how much I can immediately switch things up. But I just remember being so terrified of that first ever gig because the risk of failure is inherent in stand up in a way that is less true with improv. And I just remember doing it and feeling that rush of like, oh, this is working, this is paying off. And just knowing that the weirdness that you have in your head is resonating with people who like have no idea who you are is amazing. Like you're winning a crowd of people who don't know who you are. Because I grew up in Manila and I was never considered funny as a kid. I was considered
Oh,
weird as a kid. I
oh
was
no.
considered freaky as a kid. But it wasn't until I moved to the UK where I was like, oh no, all the things that made me weird and made me odd, I can take all of that and channel that and make people happy. And I think that's like the best thing about performing is seeing a room full of people just light up and knowing that like for the next however many minutes I am making you forget about whatever is going on in your lives, which is such a huge overblown way to describe the impact that I make with a stupid amount of jokes. But no, it's just a great feeling. It's the connection you get with it. There's a flow that you get in the room that I've never felt anywhere else. There's a connection that you feel with an audience, and you feel it when it's not there, and you feel it when it is, and there's nothing like that.
No, I absolutely agree. And you know that they say that like laughter is the shortest distance between two strangers. And
Mm,
I truly believe that. I mean, I know that, there are different types of humor out there, different styles of comedy, and there are some people, who might make people uncomfortable. But it's not necessarily my style. I think my favorite thing for comedy is when it can connect everybody who might not necessarily have wanted to get to know each other or found anything in common, right? Like if you can get them to laugh together, I think it really is the best thing. And I would rather do that than alienate somebody, like
yeah.
somebody.
and I think like every form of comedy is valid in its own right, and I think like there's ways to roast people in a way that they love, and there's a way to like gross people out where we're all bonding over how gross out we all are, but we're all living for it. And I think every performer has a responsibility to their crowd to just bring them together over something. Because I was, as a kid, my mom was like a very classic Asian mom. She would like force me to do like all of the big tests, all of the big like spelling bees and science quizzes. But because she was Filipino, she also forced me to do all the singing competitions, all the dancing competitions. So for all of my life, even though I didn't come into being funny until much later on, performing to people was
Hmm.
always a big part of my life, and it was almost treated as a sport in my household because my mom also tried to make me do sports, but I was not great.
Yeah, I was not a sporty person, but I was definitely into the spotlight. I was like the
It's
Von Trapp family of one,
it's
performing for
very
my
Filipino.
relatives, even if nobody asked for it.
It's such Filipino culture.
Absolutely. Um, and how much, I guess, of your Filipino, background plays into your comedy? I'm curious.
Mm. Well, I mean, there's the element of like the material about the Philippines, which always makes it sway in. But I think the bigger thing about being a Filipino, and particularly like an immigrant moving to London, is you just have an outsider's perspective of things. And I think whether it's in advertising or whether it's in comedy, just like having an outsider's view on things is always going to be really important because that's you've got a built-in perspective that's different from everyone else. And any type of creativity in any type of business, you've got to have your own point of view. And like at first I was like, oh, am I going to be relatable? Am I going to be likable? But actually having a different perspective on anything is always really useful. Like so much of the brands I work on, in advertising are very British brands. I've worked on British Airways, ITV, and so much of that is like, can I get under the skin of this as someone who didn't grow up in this culture? But
Mm-hmm.
actually, no, it's given me like a whole other viewpoint and a fresh take on it.
And I do agree as well. Like if you come in to an industry or even just come into a room and you have that kind of outsider's perspective on and you're not obsessed with being palatable. I feel like you're not obsessed with trying to think like everybody else and you want to ask about like what's different or look at things in a different way. It really is a gift to strategy in advertising, but also to comedy. But I will admit to myself and to everybody that that is not how I started out doing comedy. I just wanted the validation. I want everyone to like me. But I wanted to ask, I guess, are you um noticing like how you've evolved as a comedian because you started not too long ago, but you're already headlining shows. So I guess like have you seen your style evolve or your stagecraft?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, like I am so new. I want to downplay any like element of like bravado that might be coming across. I'm still so new at this. I'm still learning. There's still so much that I have to figure out and find out. But I am growing and evolving so much through the process. I mean, I'm like you. Like I love the validation. I love keeping people happy. Started out super high status and super like almost bitchy and quite cold. And then I realized that like I wasn't having fun doing that. Um,
Mhm.
and part of that's a validation as well. It's like, oh, if when it flops, it really flops. But at the same time, I just want to be friends with the audience, and I just want to like it's not who I am really. Who I am just wants to play around with people, and still, like I still get seen as high status, but like just embracing the parts of me that are stupid and that are dumb. And all of my life I've like been pushed by an Asian heritage. Like you have to succeed at everything, you have to be great at everything. And actually comedy is such a chance to be stupid and to be silly and to embrace like the things that make me stupid and silly and very flawed.
That's true. And I think, there's something about that acceptance, about that vulnerability that I think makes it easier for people to laugh at a joke,
Hmm.
right? Than if somebody shows up and is like, "I'm better than you." I mean, I mean, it can work and it can't work. I think there's a line, right? I think
Yeah, yeah.
it's a
I
balance.
I think like for me the thing that clicked for me is that like I realized that the audience likes me better when I like them.
Mm.
And you can brag and like I brag about really stupid things, but like when started to be warmer towards people and be like, we're all having fun in this together. Like I ultimately want the night to be a good night, and obviously I want to have my set go well. But like in any like whenever I'm at any open mic or any gig or any event, I'm like I want the entire night to feel good.
Mm.
And so my whole thing is I'm so big on just like raising the energy of a room and just getting people excited and getting people having fun.
And you know, you do have a very distinctive stage presence and energy that's quite palpable in your performances. Is this kind of a persona or like something that you knew getting into comedy that like, oh, this is the vibe that I want to bring to the function, or is it something that you came into?
It's something I definitely came into over time. I think again I started out a bit more cold and subdued, and actually that's not who I am when I'm with my friends. And I kind of just like tap into who I am when I'm with the people I love most, and who I am when I
Hmm.
feel the most free. And I think to me, like the thing with the energy is like, what would I want to sustain doing for however long I'm on stage?
Hmm.
And I would be so bored, not being high energy and having fun and being silly. Because also when I am high energy, it just like means that I am less worried and less in my head, and I can just loosen up and have fun with people. So it's a thing that's evolved. Like my even like my business presentation style has evolved over time as well. Like I've had to work so hard on like public speaking, and it's just really evolved. And you started out really really polished, and that was true for business and for comedy. I just started out very polished because again I have to be perfect, and actually people don't necessarily want perfection. They want to see like the little cracks in the armor. They want to see you flail a bit. And that's so true in comedy, but even in a professional setting, people just want to see the human behind you, I think.
Yeah, they don't want a robot, right? And I
Mm.
mean, if it sounds too rehearsed or, then it doesn't, I think, come off as too authentic. So what advice would you give to the comedy curious? So people who maybe they've written a couple of jokes and they're thinking about going to do an open mic, but they're nervous.
Do it. It's gonna be so scary, but do it anyway. And I think embrace every time you do it as a rep, like, and embrace it as data. Like, what stopped me feeling nervous was like, if you aren't if you they aren't laughing, you're learning. And to kind of step out of it and be like, this isn't about me and this isn't about like my ego, this is about me collecting information. If a joke doesn't work, then I'm like, great, because now I know it doesn't work. I never have to say it again. I also think like a big part of, especially when I'm trying new material, which I know will might flop, is like I'm there with the audience as well. I'm like, if you guys don't like it, then I don't like it either. And just being vulnerable and being unafraid to say, like, you know what, that didn't work. It's fine. We'll try a different thing. Because I think people aren't expecting you to be perfect. People are expecting you to make mistakes. And if you are there yourself on stage, people will just gravitate to you. And I think whether or not you do it for the long term, even if you only do it once, the ability to put yourself out there and to have done something that is so exposing and so raw is just so powerful for your character building in general.
That's so true. And honestly, at the end of the day, I don't think an audience pays or goes into a comedy show thinking, well, I hope this comic really messes up.
No,
I think they want to have a good time.
they want to see you succeed. And I think people just worry about having to have everything right and everything hit. And I think if you go into the audience thinking they're going to be your best friend, then they are. Like you kind of want, if people can sense whether you like them or not, and people can sense whether you're scared of them or not. And if you have like, you kind of just have to have that delusion. And I think that's true for all performance. You have to have the kind of delusion of like, I'm going to step on the stage. Everyone's going to be my best friend. Everyone's going to like me. If you're not liking me with this joke, I'm going to make you like me by the next one. And I think as any creative, you kind of have to have a little bit of delusion. But failure is part of it. That's why I did stand up, is because I know that every stand up, even the best stand up, will bomb multiple times, no matter how good you are. And I
I think
want to be
that's the only true thing for any stand-up is that
true.
even the best, even the newest, like everybody bombs at one point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. At multiple points. And like I this is why I did it. I was like, I want to get to the point where I bomb and I want to challenge myself to do that and then come back swinging. Because like I think with an Asian upbringing as well, you're kind of like a glass cannon. You're taught to be really good at what you do. You're taught to be always striving for excellence, but you're
Yeah.
not taught how to deal with failure.
Yes.
And that's like this whole thing has been like a crash course in like just getting comfortable with putting myself out there and being okay. And if I can have fun even when it's failing, then I know I'm doing my job right.
That's absolutely true. I'm gonna pivot though. Oh, I love this word. I'm gonna pivot from failure to winning because you recently got back from Cannes Lions, where you took home maybe a few souvenirs in the form of awards for some of your work. Can you please fill us in and tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes. So the campaign that my team and I did with The Ordinary, it's called the Periodic Table. We created a real scientific periodic table, but instead of elements, it's all of the BS and gimmicks and lies that the industry have. We collated every, I think it was like 74 different lies and buzzwords and marketing tactics and collated it into one periodic table. We turned that into a film. We turned it into out of home billboards. It was an entire campaign. And we were lucky enough to be awarded um, at the Cannes Line. We got a Grand Prix, which is one of the biggest awards you can get there. Also, really happy to say that we've won loads of different awards at other immense shows like the D&AD Awards, which are big.
Oh, lovely.
And as of last night, we took home 6 golds at the Creative Circle Awards as well. So it's been an absolutely incredible joy working with such a brilliant brand and with such incredible people.
And can you summarize for those of us who aren't familiar, um, what would that key insight be that you based the periodic fable campaign on?
So the Ordinary is a scientific brand. It's like it's cheap. It doesn't hire celebrities. It focuses on ingredients and nothing but the ingredients. It puts ingredients first. And we were competing against so many beauty brands that were using buzzwords, using celebrities, calling themselves stuff like, hyper hydration bomb and things like that. And so what we wanted to do was display the fact that these things aren't science. So what we did was create an entire periodic table, like a scientific table with absolutely zero science in it. Because there is so much pressure on the ordinaries to do you copy the tactics of the rest of the beauty industry?
Mm.
You bend to that flow, or actually do you call out the industry for what it is? Because ultimately, all of these things, all of these gimmicks, all of these buzzwords are just, adding cost to the consumer and distracting them from the ingredients that matter most to them.
And it is really such a simple juxtaposition when you think about it, right? You think one of the most, I guess, emblematic images of science, the periodic table, and you fill it with bullshit.
Mhm.
The exact opposite of like what these products are claiming to be. I think it's such a great campaign. Honestly, my favorite campaign of 2025. So
Oh,
I
thank you
think
so much.
the awards were very well deserved. But like on like a sidebar, semi sidebar, like what was Con like? Did you get to like do any of the fun stuff while you were there, or was it just go 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 go?
It was go, 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 go. I flew in, went to the award ceremony and flew out the next day.
Right on.
I had a taste of like, the culture around it, which is really fun, really over the top. It is like, people do attack Cannes sometimes because it is like the whole advertising industry in this big bubble. Um, but it is crazy and it's very camp. It's so camp. It's so funny, the whole thing. Like having to walk to the award ceremony and passing by literally the PayPal patisserie, the Reddit deli, and the Amazon Maison. Um, I loved also seeing that like Tina Knowles and Maria Sharapova are performing at the Female Empowerment Beach, which is right next to the sandwich between the Google Beach and the Meta Beach. Like it is so crazy. It is so wild. Like you have to. I think with all of this, you have to drink the Kool-Aid a little bit, but you have to leave some of the Kool-Aid in the glass. Like you have to go into it with an eyes open. Like this industry is fun, and it's fantastic to have a place where like everyone can talk about it. But at the same time, like you also have to keep in mind that there are real people out there in the real world, and they are the ones who matter at the end of the day. It was an incredible opportunity. There were some amazing people there, some incredible work that was awarded. It was a real privilege to be able to go and to be among that.
I mean, honestly, I can imagine that like going to Cannes Lions is like it's activation overload, right?
Yeah.
Because the brands have the budget and they have the
Mm.
crazy ideas. Is there a brand that you haven't worked with yet that is like your dream client?
You know what? The brand that I admire the most is Heinz. They do such incredible work with Rethink, I believe, in Toronto, and they do what I love about them and what I aspire to do with the ordinary is not just do one-time big thing, but it's a body of work. It's every year there's a hit after hit after hit, and they know that every year they're coming up with new, interesting ways to engage people, be part of culture, but take the brand and make it famous. Um, and I think that's the stuff we're doing with the ordinary. We had the periodic fable like a few months earlier we took over a storefront in New York City and filled it with millions of dollars to show the price of a celebrity endorsement.
Wow.
We recently released a campaign called the Markup Marché, where we created pop-up grocery stores all over the world which sold groceries the same way beauty sells to you.
No way.
So it was, you'd buy like an avocado, but it was renamed like a green hydration cylinder and it was priced for hundreds of pounds. So just being able to have a body of work again and again and again where you can look back at it and think, this is a body language of the brand and this is, just being able to do cool stuff on the daily. That's what I love.
Do you remember the first campaign you worked on that you saw out in the wild?
I do. It was a couple of months. I hadn't even passed probation with Uncommon, which is very amazing. It was for a brand called Chili's, which is the water bottle brand.
Mm.
Like it's reusable water bottles. I think it was World Earth Day or like World Water Day. Um, and obviously, Chili's is a reusable bottle. The tension it stands against in the world is single-use plastic bottles. So like the Evians of the world, the Highland Springs. But the campaign we did was instead of attacking them, we wanted to ask them to join us. So
Hmm.
we discovered that Chili's can print bottles of pretty much anything at really quick quantities. So we took the bottle designs of all of these bottled water brands and turned them and created Chili's versions of the Highland Spring bottle, the Evian
Oh my
bottle,
God.
all they brought without their permission. Um, Put it all over London with like a open letter called Dear Big Water. Sent the bottles to their shops, to their headquarters, and just asking them to join us. I was like, hey, we want to collaborate. We can't solve this problem alone. Come join us. And we were so worried they would sue us. And I think all of the best campaigns have legal risk. Definitely the periodic fable did. Everything we do with the ordinary, we're weaving a bit of a balance. But that was fun. Being able to do something that was quick and fun and just pokey. I just love stuff that like feels like you'd care about it in culture and stuff that has a different shape to normal advertising.
And honestly, I do believe that the advertising industry can be pretty misunderstood, especially when everyone's point of reference is Mad Men. I mean, what's your
Yeah.
opinion on the show?
I have never watched it. And I kind of, I kind of just didn't want my perception of advertising to be colored by it. I just kind of wanted to go into this industry with no preconceived notions of what it would be like and to just like kind of vibe it. Um, in the same way that like when people take on a new Shakespeare role, a lot of them don't look at past actors who've done it because they want
Uh-huh.
to come at it fresh. Um, or like people who've played the Joker or people who've played like
Mhm.
characters that have been played multiple times before, they don't watch what's been done before because they want to have their own take on it. So that's kind of why I didn't watch it. But I love
I
the outfits. I love the outfits.
I actually watched it when I was no longer in advertising. My first job was as a junior copywriter, and then I became a journalist. So I watched Mad Men, and I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess not much has changed. But again, I think it was, I don't know, like, I think it was a very wonderful show in terms of like the topics that it tackled, like,
Mm.
in terms of like, um, the gender gap, in terms of like,
Mm.
like historical moments in the United States and like what that meant for the rest of the world.
Mm.
But I guess one thing I do know that the show nails is also the fact that you really just have to be able to challenge the status quo and how it thinks about things in a certain way. I mean, maybe you're not John Hamm in a suit that looks like you've never, you know, you
Not
know,
yet.
you've not had an all-nighter or whatever, but still, like I still think there is that thing about like thinking about like how are people perceiving this thing and how
Mm.
can I think about it differently? Um, what is one of that you think is like the biggest misconceptions about what you do or about advertising?
Well, I'll tell you my mom's misconception, which is that I'm in the adverts. I am not in the adverts usually, although I have been in the British Airways holidays out of home campaign. They don't use my face on it anymore, but they used to. I used to be on the tube. That was crazy.
Oh
I was
wow.
also featured in. We did this thing for Quaker Oats, or for London Fashion Week. We created a dress made out of porridge. We got an influencer to wear it to London Fashion Week, and she was interviewed on the street by me. So I do appear in the video as like a hand. But
Wow.
that was fun. I got to use some of my improv and stand up skills on that and like writing in it as well. So that was fun. But I think the biggest misconception about advertising is that so it always just has to be TV and it always just
Mhm.
has to be like your classically shaped. It's a poster, it's an advert, and it can be. But there's so many more exciting things you can do. Like the periodic fable was there was a film, there was out of home, but it all started from like creating a thing, like creating a
Yeah,
real
yeah.
scientific fable in a website that you could look at and you could click on and learn more. And I think more in the future, the brands that succeed are going to be doing like things, projects, activations, putting things out there in the world that people care about rather than a traditionally shaped piece of media. There's always a place for that, but I think we can open our minds beyond like a standard shape of what we think advertising should be.
I do agree with that too, because also that's just not the way we get information anymore. We
Mm.
don't just go to one thing and be like, well, I'm only going to look at what's, what's on the posters on the tube, and that's it. That's all I'm going
Yeah.
to ever want to do to learn about this brand or this product. So no, I think you've got a really good point there, which is why I would be remiss like to not bring up social media.
Yeah.
Um, and I guess, what are your thoughts on advertising via social media? The difference between like what makes a good social media ad campaign versus a bad one.
Mm. I think for everything you need, like the secret to good advertising is the same regardless of the channel, and that's do you have a good idea that people will care about? You can follow every best practice format on TikTok. You can get a really great influencer, but if there's no idea, if there's not something interesting to say, it doesn't matter how you say it. And I think that's the thing that a lot of people get wrong is that they focus on when should you post or like, oh, this is the trend or the trending audio or this is the
Mhm.
hook. If what you're saying isn't interesting, if it's not an interesting idea, it doesn't matter which channel you use. But if you've got a killer idea, if you've got like an idea that is exciting, it will work on any media. You can, obviously it's good to know the best practices, but you gotta have a good idea first. And that's why like all of the stuff we do on The Ordinary, everything starts like with a website, or it starts with a real world pop up. But we take all of that and turn it into online content that's based off of it. But because there's a famous idea at the heart of it, it's so much easier to translate that into the digital space.
No, I truly agree with you. I believe that when people are just like, no, this is what's trending, let's jump on that. Or, like a client will come into a meeting and be like, well, everyone's on TikTok, so I want to be on TikTok. But
Mhm.
like, if there's no idea, then
Yeah,
I think the same also, I mean, rings true for comedy, right?
yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah,
if you can be like, well, I mean, I thought of like all these really funny puns. I thought of like, like all these like different tags or like punchlines. But I think if the premise is not good or
yeah.
clear, then you're not going to land that joke. Um, do you believe in that type of writing? Like, do you like try and stick to like a formulaic way of writing jokes? Like, what's your process when you want to like come up with new
Mhm.
material?
I am. I do love the writing process. It is one of my favorite parts of it. I do try and write every day or rewrite every day. I do get quite nerdy about it. I think a lot of the writing happens, like there's an element of writing that you do sat down with a laptop, but there's also an element of writing that happens when I rehearse it. And sometimes when I'm speaking things through, I realize that there's a better way to say it, and I realize that there's a funnier thing that I can add on. And I try and challenge myself with the kinds of things I write. Like I try and get inspiration from different styles and different people's styles, because you never want to just ape one style or one genre of comedy. I think it's the same with advertising. The best advertising comes from the best creatives, and the best copywriters have a huge swathe of references that they could take inspiration, but then they filter through their voice and what makes them unique.
Mm.
And I always try and challenge myself to write differently. Like a lot of my material is kind of raunchy, but I also like I'm trying to like, oh, can I challenge myself to write a clean set? Can I challenge myself to talk about something that is absolutely different from what I would normally talk about? And sometimes you do it and it doesn't work. Sometimes you do it and you realize it works on paper, but it's not my voice.
Mhm.
But it's always good, I think, to push yourself to try just the different angles at the craft. And I think consistency for me is important. Because sometimes you can go back to stuff that you wrote months ago and you're like, I didn't know how to do it then, but like I've got a new angle on it now.
So Steve Martin has actually said that he doesn't think a joke is ever finished. Do you agree?
I do tend to agree. I think like it's you can say it's quote unquote finished when it's on a special, like, and it's out. And then like I'm fucking I don't know, decades away from getting a special, but like I think that who you are as a person is never finished. How you
Mhm.
deliver a joke is always changing, because who you are is always changing. And therefore the jokes that you tell are always going to be filtered through you as a person who are changing. And there's always stuff that can be better. Like it's not like what I write today is going like with 8 years from now when I've got so much more experience, I can come back to that joke and attack it with that much more experience. So I agree that I don't think a joke is ever truly finished. I think that an idea is never truly finished. There's always more things to say and there's always more things to it. I'm a big believer in continuous growth and improvement, and I always think you can always get better at anything.
I love that. I love that. And yes, I do agree. I feel like, I mean, even if the joke might be the same, you might be different, right? Like
Mm,
as you said,
yeah,
people evolve. And then that might also like change the way you deliver that. I certainly tell jokes that I've told 8 years ago. They're nowhere near what they were 8 years ago. They're better, but I do think that sometimes you can also step away from a joke maybe
yeah, yeah.
and then come back to it like at some point because again we do continue to evolve and get more experience. um are there certain types of I guess comedy that you struggle with? Like for me, I actually really struggle with roasts, which is why I want to try and do them more. Is there anything like that that you like want to get better at or are interested in doing more of?
I would like to challenge myself to write cleaner. Um, I don't think it's something I'll do all the time, but I do think that it is a good challenge for me, because like it is easier sometimes to be like, oh, that's the go-to. That's how I'll end it. I'll find like a really raunchy way to end it, and that's the interesting angle on it. Whereas actually like to force myself to think like one step beyond it. Like if I were all creativity is constraint, and if I can constrain myself in one way and get it funny that way, it just means that if I do start becoming raunchy as well and adding that element to it, then I've got even more toolkits to go off, but I'm not reliant on it. And I don't want to go away from that completely because at the moment I do love it and it's part of who I am and part of my voice. But I would also like to challenge myself to do it in a cleaner way as well.
And I mean, that's how you nail that sweet corporate gig, right?
Very that like there's lots of opportunities that like
People who don't say
rely
the
on.
F word.
I mean, I would love to do a set one day that I can show my mother, which I currently can't.
Yeah, my mother has also never seen and does not want to see my comedy, because she knows, like,
The
I have,
material.
yeah, I have briefed her. What is your comedy goal? Like, maybe within the year or maybe within the next 5 years, where would you like to take your comedy career?
So the way I always approach goals is like it's the same with advertising. I never had it as a goal to like win at Cannes Lion or win a Grand Prix. Like my goal is always based on the process, not on the stuff that's within my control and not the stuff that's outside my control. So stuff like winning a competition or headlining a gig or getting more paid gigs, all of that is great and like it's all stuff that I would love to do. But part of it is out of your control. Part of it is under someone else's decision.
Yep.
Whereas the stuff that's in my control is, am I getting better at writing things? Mo- Um, is the stuff that I'm writing now better than it was before? Am I learning? Am I putting out new material out there? Am I challenging myself? The goal for me in any aspect of my life is I want to be able to look back at myself 6 months before and think, wow, the old version of me sucked. And I want the version of me 6 months from now to look back and think, wow, that version of me sucked. And I think that's what's keeping me going in anything because, like, if you're, yeah, because otherwise you're putting your goals into stuff that's outside your hands, and it's so easy to get demotivated by that versus taking stuff and taking your agency and making that the thing. Trust the process, essentially.
True, true, true. And I mean, I guess if you do set a goal and then you do reach it, then it's like, okay, now what,
Now
right? But
what?
I
Yeah,
think if you see comedy or just even like, I guess your career as something that you just have to continuously improve, then
yeah.
there is no other way about it. Um, do you believe that you can be equal parts strategic and creative, or does one have to dominate?
I think you can. I think they are tools that help each other. I think the act of strategy is a creative act because it is finding a new, interesting take on things. It's finding patterns where patterns didn't exist. It's taking lots of like chaotic information and turning it into a story that anyone can see. And same is kind of true with creativity. So, in many ways, I think there's less of a gap between them than might be expected. I think as long as there's ambition between both of them. Like, if you want to make great work, then strategy will become creative. If you want to make great creative, it's going to be inherently strategic in the way that it comes about and the way that it executes itself. So I do think that you can have both. I don't think they contradict each other.
I love that. Um, Speaking of contradictions, do you have your work life and your comedy life that you keep separate, or are they kind of things that you don't mind intersecting?
I say that I try and keep it separate. That being said, I just came from yesterday doing hosting the summer party gig, party at my office, which was, a chance to try out new material. So I did a little bit of my material there. Whenever I do big presentations at company meetings to present new work, I always like try and turn that into a little bit of a humor thing. I have done improv workshops for upcoming students of advertising from low income backgrounds.
Mm.
So I think there's increasingly more of an intersect. I tend not to invite my coworkers to gigs, so that might change, who knows? But I think there's a slight divide between the comedian self and the professional self, but I don't think there's a divide between the strategic self and the comedic self.
Ah, I like that. I like that. Um, so in terms of, I guess, your personal brand, um, would you say, again, because there is intersections between your strategic and comedic self, but in terms of like how you present yourself online,
Hmm.
um, are there like nuances in how you frame Marco the strategist or Marco the comedian?
I think like I try and be myself and be authentic in both ways. And at first I'd spit, but then I'm like, I've got a voice that I have on stage. I've got like a way that I like to write that's fun. And I'll write that way on LinkedIn and I'll write that
Yep.
way on Instagram. And I think I tend to keep both. Like LinkedIn can be so boring and so
Uh-huh.
dry that I'm like I'm not gonna censor or code switch really the way that I talk on LinkedIn because I personally think it's just funny to say someone's an iconic slay queen on LinkedIn. So I I just learned that like also within an industry that like you kind of just want your own voice and to show people that you're not afraid and to speak in your own way is such a great way of doing that.
I started swearing on LinkedIn last year, and honestly, my reach was like,
Love it. And people want to see humanity on there.
and I guess, this is a good time to segue into, well, we have like 9 minutes, like just AI. Do you use AI in your work? And if so, how? And where do we draw the line?
How do you, I here and there, I think it's really good for the menial tasks like finding things out or like sourcing things or just coming at me. Like the way I treat it is like I treat it like a really new intern. So like come up with your like try and find things for me or try and source things and I'm going to use that and say that's what I'm not going to do
Yep, yep.
because that is like if an idea is come up with by AI it's AI gets the ideas that are the general average predictions of everyone else's thoughts, and so if something comes up in AI I know that's what everyone else is probably thinking, and so that's where I'm going to go slightly different. But like there are ways in which it makes things faster, visualizing things for a client. Um, you know, some of the best creatives in the industry use it not to come up with ideas and not to do their writing for them, but like to visualize things or to take ideas that they have and flesh them out slightly more.
Hmm.
But I think you can never let it outshine yourself. And like if it gets to the point where you're reliant on it, that's when you're like, okay, it's gone a bit too far. And I'm confident that I can do everything I do. Like if all of AI disappeared tomorrow, it wouldn't affect me that much. So it's like it's just a tool in the same way that Google Slides is a tool. It's
Yep.
a tool in the same way that Google is a tool. So if you use it to serve you and not the other way around, then I think it's fine.
I think AI is good for, I mean, as you said, like menial tasks, but not as a replacement for original thought. And I think
Yeah.
that's where some people get it wrong,
Yeah.
And I mean, that's why there's so much slop out there, is because yes, it's fast, but like it's not you. And I think if
It's
you
not you,
don't
yeah.
have, if people don't have that personality in it, then what is the whole point?
Yeah, 100%. And like yeah, like I think with like that's with advertising. I think with comedy like like I'm so careful to not use AI because it's like, because as I'm finding my voice I don't want it to be colored by other things.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think the most I use it for is like I need a synonym for this or like I need something that rhymes with this or like um it's like very menial like word things, but like even then I try to use it very, very sparingly if at
What
all.
I'll use AI for in comedy is be like, what are the cliches?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Use
And
it to
then,
surface
yeah,
the bare steak stuff, and then your voice, your perspectives comes in on flipping those things and
yeah, yeah,
subverting those
yeah.
things.
But for like the boring shit, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Okay, we've got like 6 minutes left. What I'm gonna do is like I want to do like a quick fire sort of round with you where I'll ask you something And in one sentence, or if you can do it in a word, like answer.
Go for it.
Okay. So, what is the last song you listened to?
Pinky up, cat's eye.
And what is um what is your go-to karaoke song? Aha.
Um, it's all coming back to me now. Celine Dion.
Ah, that's a great one. Okay. Um, if you were going to win a superlative, like in the yearbook, like most likely to succeed or whatever, like as the person you are now, what would it be?
Most personal growth.
Okay. And if you could go back in time to teenage Marco, like 14-year-old Marco, what is like one sentence piece of advice that you would give them?
Dress better.
Okay, speaking of dress better, like what is like one item of clothing or accessory that you absolutely cannot live without?
A linen shirt.
Okay, you're going to a desert island, but you can take one CD with you, one album. What is the album? And yes, it plays forever. What is
Renaissance, Beyonce.
okay. Last concert that you went to?
Cowboy Carter, Beyonce.
No way. How was that? Oh my God.
Do you know what? I really wanted to see Renaissance. I didn't get to see Renaissance. Cowboy Carter is fine. I like Cowboy Carter. My favorite part of the Cowboy Carter concert was the mini Renaissance concert that happened in between. So
Oh.
if I could go back and tell myself one thing is like make sure you do not miss the Renaissance concert. I love that album so much.
Okay, what's your favorite Beyonce song?
I'm Filipino. It has to be Listen.
Okay, and what's your favorite Beyonce music video?
Hmm.
Ah,
Pretty Hurts.
okay, that's a real. Ooh, okay, I see you. Um, this is gonna be so random. But I want to go back to karaoke because I just remembered, like in the late '90s, when there was like a series of stabbings in the Philippines
The
and
My Way
karaoke
Murders.
bars over who got to sing the song "My Way." What is the karaoke song that you would stab somebody for in order to sing?
Do you know? I do love My Way. I do. I love a Sinatra moment.
Okay. What song would you like them to play at your funeral?
Probably is going to be My Way.
Oh, wow. All right.
I'm
All
so
right.
Tito energy.
No, I love it. I love it. Okay. Um, what, um, okay, what would you say the aliens come to planet Earth and they ask you, like, about human life? What, like, message would you give them or what would you communicate to them?
Go back. It's not worth it. There's nothing to see here.
Um, and is there anywhere in your bucket list of like a place or like a city or wherever in the world that you would like to travel to?
I would. Uh, I'd like to visit more of South America. I'd like to visit
Anywhere?
anywhere in South America. Anywhere.
Yeah, same. Never been, never been. I've heard they have similar feelings about Spain than Filipinos do. But okay, and finally, if you had to stop doing stand-up comedy forever tomorrow, how would you like people to remember you?
I had fun.
Amazing. Oh my God. Can you believe it's like been an hour? This is
It's crazy.
crazy. This is
Thank
crazy.
you so much for having me.
I know this was so much fun. For those of you guys who are tuning in, I will be posting this on my Substack. But before we go, Marco, can you tell everybody like when they can catch you next and where they can follow you?
Yes. You can follow me on Marco DV Comedy, on Instagram. I'll be up at Edinburgh Fringe with two different shows. I'll be up there with Improbotics, which is like a tech-focused improv show, and then Lost the Plot, which is an improvised musical. I'm also a swing for Impromptunes as well, which is also an improvised musical. So I might be up there for that as well. And then I'm also this Sunday with Bitches and Stitches.
Yeah, we're doing London Queer Fringe at the Queer Comedy Club. So please come swing by, come yap with us, come have a laugh with us. But in the
Yes.
meantime, thank you. Have a wonderful rest of your Friday, and I will see you on Sunday.
Thank you very much. Bye bye.
Bye. Bye, everyone.